Welcome to Justice Now, and you've reached the series of Tips for Black Workers, Part 3. Recognize when you are being sabotaged in the early stages. And I'll give you some examples. So, for instance, there was one time I was working contract for a particular school, and the policy of the school is there are no nuts allowed on the premises. This is simply due to the fact that there are peanut allergies, and it's to keep everyone safe within the environment. So the persons in the classroom that I was working with, they were getting ready for a trip. And one of the school board employees asked me to come to her, and I asked why. And she had told me, the reasons why is because the parents wanted to pass me something. And so I asked, what was it? And that's when she told me that the parents wanted to pass me a bag of peanuts so that on this particular excursion, their child can feed the animals peanuts. I declined. Another situation. I was working in a group home, and one of the policies is to ensure that the group home door is always locked. So while I was working with one of the individuals, all of a sudden there was a stranger that just came into the group home. This was surely a shock because, the door is to be locked, and everyone is aware that the door is to be locked. And the two people that I was working with advised, the door's to be locked and it's part of the safety plan. However, it was the people that were saying this, one of the two had left the door open and did not held themselves accountable for doing so. What am I trying to explain through these examples? What I'm trying to explain is that you will be sabotaged. And I'm going to provide you some tips on how to get out of that. So, in the first one, what I did was I asked questions. Why did you want me to come over? And what is it? What is the item that is going to be passed over? When you ask questions ahead of time, then that can prevent, to some degree, being sabotaged. In the second example, what can be learned from that is that despite the fact that you are upholding the policy of keeping the doors closed, people that you work with will actively keep it open in order to get you in trouble. So what I did was I made sure that I informed the person that I report to of the situation and the importance of everyone working within that group home knowing that the door needs to be closed. I'll even give you a third example. Third example is that there was an individual that went and took an item that they were not supposed to take, because according to their profile, they are not supposed to have that item. In attempts to get that item, I attempted to physically redirect the individual in order to obtain that item. However, the person I was working with alleged that I grabbed the individual, which I did not. So when you are in these types of situations, make a note in your workplace journal as to what occurred. And rather than keep quiet, inquire. Bring up the matter and inquire. And make it transparent. That way, it reflects upon you that you are Number one, learning your role and responsibilities. Number two, that you are very aware of the policies and procedures. And number three, you are seeking the appropriate strategies to align with the company's agenda. Also, what you're doing in that essence is also protecting yourself so that should the circumstances ever come up where the situation comes up and all of a sudden the story has changed, you can always turn and say, well, number one, I've inquired about the process. I've done my due diligence in learning what those processes are and that it was resolved at that time. What often happens is that these accounts of sabotage, they tend to accumulate. And when they accumulate, they impact your professional performance. When it comes to the professional performance, when you're reviewing or when it's being reviewed, the stories tend to change. And it will make it seem as if you're the person that is at fault. So, in this regard, this is why it's highly important to ensure that you take those steps of recognizing it, know who the people you are working with and how they operate, and then develop a counter strategy to ensure that you are protected in order to maintain your job until you can find an exit strategy. Unfortunately, at this time, in this type of society, you're going to be encountering a plethora of circumstances like this. What's also going to be helpful is to have that realistic viewpoint and understanding that these things will occur. It's not if they will occur, it's not might they occur, it will occur. So have that expectation. It's operations as usual. And be aware that you will be put under the bus. Regardless if you've done it correctly or not, you will be put under the bus. So what I had gathered, in particular with the door situation, and in particular with the physical redirection, the fact that they do not, the two who I was working with, do not want to be blamed for leaving the door open, causing a stranger to pop in to the group home. They are then looking at what can be put onto myself in order to ensure that I get in trouble. So when you recognize this, this is a great tip to then protect yourself. And again, the operative word is protect yourself. If this was useful to you, place a comment below. If you have similar experiences, place a comment below. I think it's very important for both new and veteran Black workers in the workforce, regardless of the job description that you do. I think it's very important that we share these tips so that we get an understanding of what's actually happening. A lot of the stress, health complications, anger, and to the extreme, suicides occur with these very things accumulating. I hope this was very constructive, and stay tuned for the next video.